Jason stood frozen in the dealership, his Army credentials still in hand, as the salesman smirked and said, "Being a vet doesn't mean much around here." Behind the counter, a memo flickered on the screen. "Lowball trade-ins, especially vets." Jason didn't raise his voice. He raised something far more dangerous. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Jason didn't raise his voice. He didn't storm back in. That wasn't his style. In the Army, he'd learned that real power didn't come from yelling. It came from leverage. And Jason had more of it than Brad could possibly imagine. Driving home in the old F-250, Jason's mind ticked like a well-calibrated field watch. He could still hear Brad's condescension in his ears, like radio static that wouldn't shut off. "Lucky we're even taking it." The words felt more offensive than any enemy fire he'd dodged in the Hindu Kush. Not because of the money, though the insult to his truck was no small thing, but because of the dismissiveness. The way the kid had tossed aside his service, his sacrifice, as though it were some expired coupon that no longer held value. Jason's driveway backed up against a patch of woods on the edge of Chesterfield County. As he pulled in, his dog Tank, half German shepherd, half mystery, bounded out to greet him. Jason gave him a rough pat on the head and muttered, "We've got a problem, boy." Tank cocked his head, like he always did when Jason started speaking in his mission voice. Inside, Jason dropped his DD-214 on the counter and booted up his laptop. His fingers flew across the keyboard, not with the fumbling frustration of a man his age, but with the efficiency of someone who used to coordinate the movements of 10-ton convoys across unsecured roads. Within minutes, he had pulled up public records on Freeman Ford's ownership. He started building a dossier. Owner, business license, Better Business Bureau complaints, Google reviews. It wasn't about revenge, not yet. It was about understanding the battlefield. That night, he emailed a buddy, Colonel Donna Reyes, retired, now a regional director at a national veteran advocacy group. Subject line, "Disrespect at dealership. Need advice." He attached a detailed account of the trade-in encounter, complete with the VIN, photos of his truck, and a copy of the Kelly Blue Book listing. Donna's reply came back less than an hour later. "You want me to run this up to VA Secretary's office or the media? Your call. Either way, we've seen this crap before. They prey on polite." Jason didn't answer right away. He wasn't after headlines. He was after respect. Real, earned respect. The kind a man should get after carrying gear through 130-degree heat and losing friends along the way. He thought of Brad again. So smug, so assured. A desk jockey in a dealership polo shirt, thinking the world owed him for showing up on time. Jason wasn't jealous. He was furious at the imbalance. In a country that said, "Thank you for your service" at football games and airport terminals, the reality was this. When it came to dollars and cents, that gratitude dried up fast. The next morning, Jason drove to a different dealership across town. Not to buy a truck, but to ask a few quiet questions. He made sure they knew he wasn't shopping. He was gathering information. He spoke to the floor manager, a former Marine named Sweeney, who winced when he heard about the $2,000 offer. "That's daylight robbery," he said flatly. "They lowball vets because they think we won't cause trouble." Jason nodded slowly. "Not this time," he said. When he left, he didn't go home. He went to the VFW hall, where he knew other veterans gathered every Thursday. The room was half full, the air rich with the smell of old coffee and lived-in leather. Jason stood by the coffee urn and told them the story, straight and without drama. A few grunted, a few cursed. One old guy muttered, "Same damn thing happened to me at a Kia lot." By the end of the night, Jason had something better than outrage. He had allies, not soldiers, not subordinates, brothers. The night Jason hit send on that email, a slow, electric calm settled over him. The kind a soldier knows right before a storm breaks. He didn't write it in anger. He wrote it like a sitrep. Precise, objective, dangerous. No ranting, just the cold, steady language of a man who knew how to file a report that made generals sit up straighter. He included everything. The trade-in offer, the discrepancy with Kelly Blue Book, the condescending exchange with Brad, and, most damning, the internal memo line he'd memorized and jotted into his notes the moment he saw it flash on a service screen. Low-ball trade-ins, especially vets, higher margin. They don't argue. He'd seen lines like that before, not in dealerships, but in briefings, those red flag intelligence fragments that got men reassigned or blacklisted. And Jason knew exactly what that phrase meant in a defense contracting context. It wasn't just shady business, it could be fraud, conflict of interest, even a violation of federal ethics standards. He didn't CC journalists, he didn't post it to social media. He sent it straight to one man, Colonel Thomas Barrett, U.S. Army, retired, now Director of Pentagon Procurement for Tactical Vehicles. Barrett wasn't just a bureaucrat with a title. He'd been downrange, under fire, trapped in a burning MRAP with Jason one long night in Kandahar. Jason had pulled him free after the ambush. Barrett hadn't forgotten. Barrett's reply came in 2 days, with a level of formality that only underscored the seriousness beneath it. Jason, appreciate the heads up. You didn't hear this from me yet, but this memo raises red flags. I'm initiating a compliance audit. We'll look at every dealership tied to Freeman Auto Group. Quiet for now. More soon. Tom. What followed was invisible to the public, but seismic behind closed doors. Pentagon auditors arrived in Richmond in unmarked cars and plain suits, moving like accountants but operating more like investigators. They weren't just looking at Freeman Ford's showroom. They were pulling federal invoices, matching contract terms to vehicle configurations, dissecting cost variances on military spec pickups delivered to Fort Lee, Camp Lejeune, and Langley. Jason kept his head down, no press, no protests, but he heard things. A friend at the DMV let slip that Freeman's title processing had slowed to a crawl. Random reviews had been triggered. A buddy from his logistics days at Fort Belvoir texted, "What the hell did you send the suits into? I just had a call with Barrett's office. Classified." And back at Freeman Ford, things weren't the same. Jason didn't go in right away. He waited. Weeks passed. And then, just after the 4th of July, he drove by, pure curiosity, or maybe something deeper. Closure. Gone was the lazy confidence on the sales floor. Brad, the sneering kid, was on leave, according to a receptionist who wouldn't meet Jason's eyes. The general manager had aged 10 years in 4 weeks. His posture sagged. His smile was the kind you see when someone's lawyer told them to just stay pleasant. But what struck Jason most were the new signs on the windshields of every truck. Now honoring full military value, no exceptions. It wasn't just a slogan, it was a surrender. And deeper than that, a reckoning. The dealership's website had changed too. A newly added Veterans Promise banner ran across the homepage, complete with glossy stock images of flag salutes and Gold Star families. Jason clicked through it once, then closed the tab. He didn't need their apologies. He hadn't asked for them. What he wanted, what every veteran deserved, was dignity, not decoration. Still, something inside him loosened, not joy, not even relief, but satisfaction. The same feeling he got when a convoy arrived intact after 400 miles of desert road. No one noticed the planning. They just saw the result. That was fine with him. Jason didn't buy a truck that day. He didn't need to. He'd already taken something far more valuable from Freeman Ford, their advantage. The phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It started with a single alert. Veterans email sparks Pentagon termination of $26 million dealer contract. Brrm. Bold headline, center column, Military Times. Jason had no idea the story had broken until a former platoon sergeant texted, "McCready, what the hell did you do? Your front page, brother." Within hours, his inbox went from a dormant to drowning. Not just congratulations, but confessions. Raw, detailed, often furious. Subject lines read like triage reports. Shorted $7,200 on trade-in. Told discounts don't apply to National Guard. Sales guy laughed when I said I was a vet. One email stuck with him. A Marine Lance Corporal from Fayetteville wrote, "They told me my DD-214 was just a piece of paper, like it didn't mean anything. That truck was supposed to be for my wife and newborn. I still signed, couldn't afford to start over. But I saw your story, made me feel like maybe I'm not crazy. Thank you, sir." Jason didn't feel heroic. He felt responsible. Like someone had opened a door he hadn't meant to kick in. But now that it was open, people were pouring through, wounded and waiting for triage. So he responded. Not with Twitter threads or viral videos. He wasn't wired that way. Jason had always done his best work in the shadows of the supply lines, where quiet logistics saved loud lives. He got to work. He reached out to Guard Dog Legal, a small but scrappy nonprofit that offered pro bono legal aid for veterans. They'd cut their teeth on VA appeals and housing discrimination cases, but they had teeth, and they were angry too. Together they launched a secure online intake system. Simple interface. Military ID verified. Anonymous if needed. Jason paid for the server himself. The intake form was efficient, like a field report. Dealership name, date of purchase, nature of the misconduct, and any supporting documents. Hundreds flowed in within weeks. Patterns emerged. Certain chains repeatedly flagged, identical language used to deny discounts, multiple branches using the same template contracts with predatory clauses buried on page 6. Jason reviewed every one. He wasn't playing whistleblower anymore. He was playing tactician. By the third month, the data was too damning to ignore. Guard Dog compiled a 72-page white paper and sent it to the VA, the Department of Transportation, and 3 congressional offices. They didn't have to march. The numbers marched for them. Freeman Auto Group never recovered. Their CEO resigned, citing health concerns. Federal watchdogs released a joint statement confirming breach of ethical conduct and termination of all active government contracts. Other dealerships quietly scrubbed their veterans discount pages, terrified of being the next domino. But Jason didn't watch the fall. He stayed focused on the ones still standing. He helped a Navy corpsman in Florida get reimbursed after a dealership admitted to altering the contract. He assisted an Air Force pilot's widow in California file a successful small claims suit. He even coached an Army reservist in Texas on how to navigate arbitration without a lawyer. And through it all, he refused interviews. Except one. A local reporter from the Richmond Gazette showed up at the veteran-owned dealership where Jason finally bought his new F-150. The man had served 2, and he didn't ask stupid questions. "How's it feel?" he asked, voice low, recorder off, "to take down a corporation with one email?" Jason looked at the keys in his hand. No paperwork games, no smirking salesman, just a clean handshake and a quiet salute. He thought for a moment. "I didn't take them down," he said. "I just reminded them who they were selling to." And with that he slid into the truck, shut the door, and drove off. No parade, no hashtags, just the low hum of a diesel engine and a mission completed.